I walked home from the attorney's office. My brother had left me his beautiful lake house and 2 downtown condos in his will. I carried a small velvet pouch with antique silver spoons I had bought as a gift for my future grandchild. My heart was full of hope and excitement. At 64, I thought this was the moment I could finally become the generous grandmother I had always dreamed of being. My name is Eleanor Whitmore, a retired librarian. For years, I had lived quietly in the shadow of my son Kevin and his wife Vanessa. I tolerated Vanessa's sharp comments and Kevin's indifference because I believed family meant sacrifice. But that day, everything changed. As I approached our old Victorian row house, I heard laughter through the open window. Kevin's deep chuckle mixed with Vanessa's high-pitched giggles. I smiled, eager to share my wonderful news. I was about to tap on the glass when something in their tone made me pause. I stepped closer, staying hidden by the ivy-covered wall, and peeked through the lace curtains. Vanessa stood in the center of the living room, wearing a loose tunic. She was unbuckling straps around her waist. With a sigh of relief, she pulled off a prosthetic pregnancy belly, a foam and fabric contraption designed to look like a 6-month bump. She tossed it carelessly onto the sofa. "I'm roasting in this thing," she groaned, stretching her completely flat stomach. Kevin, toss me a beer. My son, lounging in the armchair, laughed and handed her a cold can. "Hang in there, babe. Mom's completely hooked. Did you see how she fusses over you?" Another week of this, and she signed the house over to us for the sake of a grandson who doesn't even exist. They both burst into laughter. The sound cut through me like shattered glass. Vanessa continued, her voice dripping with contempt. "She's such a naive old woman. She'll give us everything, thinking she's helping her future grandchild. Once the deed is in our names, we can drop this whole act and ship her off to some old shack in the countryside." I stood frozen outside the window. The velvet pouch in my hands suddenly felt unbearably heavy. All the love, all the sacrifices I had made for them over the years drained away in that moment, replaced by a cold, ringing emptiness. These were not my family. They were strangers, calculating and cruel. I stepped back into the shadows, my mind racing. No tears came. Instead, a quiet, icy resolve settled over me. They thought I was a naive sheep. They had no idea what this sheep was capable of when pushed too far. What I did next would turn their greedy plan into a nightmare they never saw coming. I took a deep breath, smoothed my skirt. "Warmest smile I could manage, my darlings," I called out cheerfully. "I have incredible news." Kevin and Vanessa quickly composed themselves. Vanessa pulled a blanket over her lap while Kevin tried to look concerned. "Ree has a headache, Mom," he said dramatically. "Oh, poor thing," I cooed, setting down my bag. I pulled out the expensive bottle of bourbon I had bought on the way home. But this news calls for a celebration. I told them about my brother's will, the 2 luxury condos, the cabin with a pool, and the substantial bank accounts. Their eyes lit up with pure greed. I watched them carefully, noting every flicker of excitement. When I mentioned the strict condition in the will that the inheritance would only fully transfer upon the birth of a direct male grandson with proper documentation, their faces paled slightly, but the greed won out. I became the perfect, doting mother-in-law. I took over all household chores, cooked heavy, rich broths for the baby's development, and insisted on complete rest for Vanessa. I even quit letting Kevin work, telling him he needed to stay home to support his wife. Every request for money was met with gentle questions and receipts. They were trapped in a golden cage of my love. I could see the hatred growing in their eyes every time I adjusted Vanessa's pillows or forced Kevin to read classics aloud for the baby's ears, waiting for the millions they believed were coming. The arrival of the strict specialist doctor I arranged would push their deception to the breaking point. The next evening, the doorbell rang. My old friend Augustus, the attorney, arrived dressed as a stern medical professor. Kevin and Vanessa were visibly nervous as he examined the patient with cold professionalism. When he mentioned reviewing medical records and the need for a full genetic workup, their panic became obvious. Vanessa tried to squirm out of it, but I insisted it was necessary for the inheritance. Augustus played his role perfectly, dropping hints about past records and complications that made Vanessa sweat. The trap was tightening beautifully. Over the following days, I escalated my care. I measured Vanessa constantly for custom baby clothes, using sharp pins that occasionally found their way too close to her fake belly. I forced them to sell possessions to prove their commitment to the family. Kevin sold his beloved car, watch, and electronics. The more they sacrificed, the more I praised them. Their frustration and fear grew daily. I overheard their desperate whispers about finding a way to fake the birth or buying a baby temporarily. Their greed had turned them into monsters willing to cross any line. The night I burned the money they had scraped together would mark the beginning of their total collapse. On Friday evening, Kevin handed me an envelope with $15,000, everything he had gotten from selling his possessions. Vanessa watched greedily from the doorway. I took the money, admired it for a moment, then calmly walked to the fireplace and dropped the entire stack into the flames. Kevin screamed and lunged forward, trying to save the burning bills. Vanessa shrieked in horror. I watched calmly as their sacrifices turned to ash. Money is temporary, I told them. Trust and respect are what matter. You both failed. Vanessa's mask finally shattered. She raged, calling me every name imaginable, and admitting she never loved Kevin. She only wanted the money. Kevin sat broken on the floor as his wife revealed her true nature. Their world was imploding. When Vanessa tried to steal valuables, I had movers waiting. I forced them both out of the house that very night. Kevin begged and cried, but I remained firm. They had chosen greed over family. Now they would face the consequences. The final revelation about the true inheritance would deliver the ultimate blow to their shattered egos. A week later, I sat in Augustus's office as he finalized the real inheritance documents. My brother had left me everything worth millions with no debts. There had never been any conditions about a grandson. I had invented the entire story to expose their true characters. Kevin and Vanessa had destroyed their lives chasing a phantom fortune that never existed. I kept the properties and began traveling, living the life I deserved. I donated part of the wealth to charity and finally found peace. Looking back, I don't regret my actions. They taught me that love without respect is dangerous. Sometimes the greatest gift a mother can give her child is the chance to face the consequences of his choices. The powerful lessons from this journey about betrayal, greed, and reclaiming your worth. This story is a reminder that we should never let anyone take advantage of our kindness. Family is not an excuse for cruelty or manipulation. True love includes respect and honesty. I went from feeling like a burden to becoming the master of my own destiny. To every mother listening, your sacrifices matter. But your dignity matters more. Never be afraid to stand up for yourself. It is never too late to rewrite your story and live on your own terms. If this tale touched you, remember, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face the truth of who they really are. Thank you for listening.